Welcome to the online study. Today we will see the explanation of lesson number 5, The Happy Prince, written by Oscar Wilde. Let us see about the author. Oscar Wilde was an Irish playwright, novelist, essayist, and poet. He became fluent in French and German language. At the turn of 1890s, he refined his ideas about the supremacy of art in a series of dialogues and essays, and incorporated themes of decadence, duplicity, and beauty into his only novel, The Picture of Dorian Gray, in 1890. He is remembered for his epigrams, novels, plays, as well as the circumstances of his imprisonment and early death. Have a look on the theme of this lesson, The Happy Prince. This story deals with the theme of internal beauty. It expresses or describes the futility of outward beauty. Outward beauty is nothing, it is just a show. The real beauty is based on the internal qualities like humbleness, love, affection, sympathy, and sacrifice. This lesson deals with two values or virtues, that is love and sacrifice. Love drives us to make sacrifice, and this also depicts the great gap between the rich and the poor, the rulers and the masses. This is a very overwhelming story about a prince who sacrificed all things for the sake of poor and afflicted people. There was a prince who lived once upon a time, but he died. However, after his death, his monument or statue was erected on a column at a particular height in that city. The Happy Prince was a beautiful statue of a real prince. Now, after his death, his statue was made, his statue was erected on the heights, so that from the heights of this statue, one can view the entire city. Now, his statue was adorned. He was covered with gold. His statue was covered with golden leaves. He had sapphire on his eyes. On the place of eyes, he had the sapphire. Sapphire, that means precious blue colored stone. And at the tilt of his sword, there was a ruby, that means a diamond-like stone, precious stone. This statue was set up on a tall column by his courtiers, by the ministers. This statue was set up at a very high column. Now, this is the appearance of the statue. You may understand that this statue of a prince is adorned with golden leaves, with rubies, with sapphire on his eyes, and such golden statue of this happy prince stood on the column, tall column. Beautiful statue. That is for the remembrance of this happy prince. He was named Happy Prince. Now, as it is mentioned that this statue is raised on a tall column, from where one can view the entire city. One can see the things happening in the city. The statue of Happy Prince see all the misery of the city. Even though he is dead, his statue is made alive in this story. Literally, a statue cannot see, cannot hear, cannot move. But in this lesson, the statue is personified as living object. So this statue of Happy Prince could see the misery of the people, afflicted people, poor people, poverty-stricken people. So this Happy Prince, he see the misery of the people of the city. He weeps when he see the people in trouble. He had a soft corner for the people. When he see any kind of injustice, when he see any kind of misery, any kind of problem and trouble that his people were suffering or going through, he wept. He wanted to help them. He had sympathy for them. And out of that sympathy, out of that love, he wanted to help those miserable and deplorable people in trouble. But the condition is that he could not move. He is fixed on a column. He can only behold the miseries, troubles, and the problems of the people, but cannot move from that column and help them. Indeed, he wanted to help them from the core of his heart, from the depth of his heart. He wanted to help them, help those people, but he could not move from his place. But one day, a swallow stayed at the feet of the statue of the Happy Prince. One day, a migratory bird, swallow is a small bird, it came and stayed under the feet of this Happy Prince. And as it found it safer to dwell and stay under the feet of the Happy Prince during the night, as this swallow was about to sleep, water droplet fell on him, on this bird, and this bird was startled and astonished. When he looked at the sky, this bird looked at the sky. There were no clouds, there were no rain, and it wondered from where did this water droplet fell down. It looked and found that the Happy Prince was weeping. The statue of Happy Prince was weeping. And this was the droplets of the tears of Happy Prince. So this swallow, it flew before the Happy Prince, before the sight of the Happy Prince, and asked why he was weeping, why he was. When the Happy Prince was asked why he was weeping, he says that far away in a little street there is a poor house. One of the window is open, and through it can see a woman seated at a table. Her face is thin and worn, and she has coarse and red hands, all pricked by the needle, for she is a seamstress, a female tailor. She is embroidering flowers on a satin gown of the loveliest, for the loveliest of the queen's maid of honor, to wear at the next court ball. In a bed there is a little boy who is laying ill. He has a fever and asking his mother to give him oranges. His mother has nothing to give him but river water. So he is crying. Now this is the sight that is seen by the happy prince. There is a poor house. The windows of the house are kept open. There is a lady who is a seamstress who is doing some embroidery work for the gown of the queen, while her son is laying ill on the bed. He is demanding, he is asking for oranges, but they are so poor to buy oranges. She has nothing except water. This boy is crying. This is the heart-wrenching, this is the heart-breaking scenario or the scene seen by the happy prince. He says to the swallow, that is why he is weeping. He asks, swallow, swallow, little swallow, will you not bring her the ruby out of my sword hilt? Because his feet are fastened to the column. This happy prince, he says to swallow that swallow could take the ruby out of the hilt of the sword and give it to the poor seamstress. Swallow did the same. Swallow plucked that ruby, taking it on her beak. It flew to the house and dropped that ruby on the table of seamstress. And thus the happy prince helped the poor seamstress, and that gave him joy and delight. After this is over, the swallow says that my friends are flying up and down the Nile, and they are supposed to go to Egypt, because the atmosphere, the climate of this place is not suitable. It is colder day and day. It is becoming colder day and day. So it is not good for this swallow to stay here. Otherwise, it could not survive. So it is waiting to go to Egypt. This swallow, this bird is waiting to go to Egypt. But the happy prince asked the swallow to stay with him for one more night. So, however, this swallow stayed with that happy prince. Now this is the second evening. The swallow agreed to stay with the happy prince one more evening, one more night. And in the night, the happy prince said that far away across the city, I see a young man in a garret. He is leaning over a desk covered with papers, and in the glass by his side there is a bunch of withered violets. His hair is brown and crisp, and his lips are red as pomegranate, and he has large and dreamy eyes. He is trying to finish a play for the director of the theater, but he is too cold to write anymore. There is no fire in the grate, and hunger has made him faint. Now this is the another sight that is seen by the happy prince. He saw a young man who is leaning on the table. That table is covered by papers. Why? Because he is a writer. So he has been commissioned to write a play by the director. But due to extreme and intense cold, he is not able to finish his play. He is not able to write his play. Moreover, he does not have any fire in the grate, and hunger made him fainted. So the happy prince says that I does not have any ruby, but my eyes are still that I have left. As I told you that the eyes of the happy prince were the sapphire, the precious stone. They are made of rare sapphire, which were brought out of India 1,000 years ago. He ordered the swallow to pluck out one of them and take it to the playwright. He will sell it to the jeweler and buy firewood. Thus he will finish his play. The swallow refused to do it. He said that I cannot do that. And he began to weep. Swallow, swallow, little swallow, said the prince, do as I command. So the swallow plucked one of the prince's eye and flew to the young man's garret. It was easy enough to get in, as there was a hole in the roof. Through this he darted and came into the room. The young man had his face buried in his hands. So this swallow dropped that sapphire in that house of young man, and then it flew back again to the happy prince. Happy prince was delighted. He was happy. Even in fact, he lost his eye, but he was still happy to help somebody in need. The next day, the swallow seemed to be very happy, because the swallow wanted to go to Egypt. The climate here in this place is getting colder and colder. The swallow could not live any longer in this place. She says that it is warm in Egypt and swallow could survive there. But this time, the happy prince says that he had seen a girl, a little match girl. She has let her matches fall in the gutter, and they are all spoiled. Her father will beat her if she does not bring home some money, and she is crying. She has no shoes or stocking, and her little head is bare. Pluck off my another eye and give it to her, and her father will not beat her. This is another situation that is viewed, that is seen by the happy prince. There is a girl who lost her match on or in the gutter, and if she will not bring that matches to her father, he will beat her. So she is crying. This sight made the happy prince very sad. He was moved with compassion. He was moved with sympathy for that little girl. He commanded the swallow to pluck off the another eye, another sapphire from his eyes, and give it to that girl so that he can have the money, so that she could not be beaten up by her father. The swallow plucked the sapphire and dropped that sapphire into the hands of this little girl. This little girl exclaimed, "What a lovely bit of glass!" cried The little girl, she ran home laughing, and then the swallow came back to the happy prince. He was still happy without his both eyes. Now this time the happy prince had become completely blind because both of his eyes were plucked out. The swallow told that she will live with this happy prince always. It will not fly over to Egypt since the happy prince is blind. But happy prince insisted this swallow, this bird, to go to Egypt, but it did not. So the happy prince asked this bird to fly over the city and have a look on the city. Since he is blind, he cannot see anymore. So he asked the bird to fly over the city and see the condition of the people. This bird flew over the city, and this bird saw the hungry children, the beggars, the people who are starving, the children who are starving. And that sight really made her sad, and this bird came and informed this to the happy prince. Now this time, happy prince does not had any ruby, any precious stone or sapphire, and this happy prince said that you can pluck the leaves of gold, the golden leaves that covered his body, and should give these golden leaves to those hungry children, those poor children, so that they can buy bread and survive. The swallow did as commanded by the happy prince. Leaf after leaf of the fine gold the swallow picked off, till the happy prince looked dull and grey. Leaf after leaf, the happy prince, golden leaves were plucked out by the swallow. Now there came a time that the statue of happy prince looked dull and grey without the golden covering. The fine gold he brought to the poor, and the children's faces grew rosier, and they laughed and played in the street. We have bread now. The poor children, when they got the golden leaves, they were happy, expecting that now they will have bread to eat. But what happens to the little happy prince? Happy prince is now looking dull and listless. The climate of this place was getting colder and colder. This bird, this swallow, was not able to survive due to intense and extreme cold atmosphere. It became very difficult for the swallow to survive here. However, the swallow realized that the end is near. Now swallow would die. At that time, it went to the happy prince and told that, I'm going. And the happy prince asked that where it was going. And then this swallow bid him goodbye, and this swallow died at the feet of the happy prince due to extreme and intense cold. As the bird died, some cracking sound was heard from the statue. It was the heart, the lead heart of the happy prince. Early next morning, the mayor passed by the square below with the town councillor. They noticed that the happy prince statue looked shabby, unkempt, and dull. The ruby had fallen out. The sapphires of the eyes were nowhere, and the statue was no longer golden. And the mayor and the town councillor, they looked at the statue, and they found that this statue has become ugly, shabby, unkempt, and all the golden leaves are plucked off, and the sapphire or the ruby had fallen out. They pulled it down and sent it to furnace. They pulled that statue and sent it to furnace to be burned. The statue did not melt in the furnace, and therefore it was thrown out on the dust heap where the dead swallow was already laying. And an angel came and took the laden heart and the dead swallow to the God as two most precious things. God commanded the angel to go to the earth and bring two precious things. So the angel came down, and the angel had taken the lead heart and the body of dead swallow to the God, because it was considered to be the most precious thing upon earth.